about all, so we might as well get started. Robin Quayle and I last year about this time, and Sherry McCord sitting over here, with three of us brought Bill in last February, had a real good turnout, and we decided to do it again this year. Robin and I have been talking with Bill for over the past several months, and we found out that he's got a lot of brand new material that you people, if you were to the one last year, it's going to be the new material. And one of the things he said last year, he said he was going to touch from kindergarten to about the 4th grade last year. And it made some people mad, but yet made them mad enough to a lot of you come back. Now, this year, he told me the other night, he said we're going to hit from about the 7th grade to the 10th grade, so we're into junior high. So maybe in 2 more years, we'll be into high school or college. So this is some of the things. Bill spent about 7 years in naval intelligence, and he'll get in a little bit about what he did in there. And then he spent the last 17 years putting together what he is going to share with us this afternoon. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Bill Cooper. Bill?
Hospitality is wonderful. When they talk about Georgia peaches, they're not kidding. And probably the best breakfasts that you can get anywhere are down south. My mother was from North Carolina, from Charlotte. I was raised on grits and all the good things. And it was funny, I didn't like it much when I was a kid, but now I can't get enough. Seems like we change over the years, and sometimes the poison becomes sweet. What I'm going to talk about today is a lot of how the sweetness has become poison. Just the opposite has been happening. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can change it. I'd like to know, how many of you are here from out of state? Good, excellent. We try very hard to notify everybody that we have an address on anywhere around any state that I'm going to be in, and I see that people are appreciating that. So we're not wasting our money on the postage. How many of you are here to see what I have to present and hear what I have to say for the first time? My God. Something is working. That's incredible. That's wonderful. How many of you have never seen any tape or heard any audio presentation of mine or been to any of my personal appearances? Okay, that's good. Something is really working. One of the most difficult things about what I talk about is get people to drop their preconceived notions, their preconceived ideas, it can't be happening, this is impossible, Bill Cooper's a nut. Get them to drop those kinds of obstacles and just take a look at the evidence. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want you to believe anything that I tell you today. I don't want you to believe anything that I present to you today. But I do want you to see it. And I do want you to listen, and maybe, just maybe, what I'm all about is just maybe you will see or hear something here today that's going to convince you that something is terribly wrong. And it's going to empower you to become active and help us find out exactly what is wrong and fix it. Because I believe that we don't have too much time left to do this. I hope that I'm wrong. I sincerely hope that I'm wrong. But I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, since I have begun telling the world what I know and what I've found in my research, thousands of people have set out to intentionally prove me wrong, to ridicule me, to discredit me, to do all of these things, and no one has succeeded. Everyone who has gone to research the evidence to try and prove that I'm wrong has only succeeded in proving that I'm right. And I have thousands of letters from these people. And they're amazed when they do it. There are people here today who were at my presentation last year who I know didn't believe anything that I told them. They were very skeptical. skeptical and have since become helpers in our crusade because they went out and looked at what's available. Most of the evidence is in the public domain. It's there for anyone to find. That's where I found it. That's not how I got started on it, but that's where I found everything that I'm going to show you today, most of what I'm going to talk about. There is also a lot of deception. There is layer and layer upon layer upon layer of misinformation, disinformation, just plain old ordinary bullshit, and a lot of other things to get in your way. So wading through that can sometimes be difficult. You have to use your gut feeling, you have to use your common sense, you have to dig. But it's important that you learn to do that. For those of you who are here for the first time today, let me give you some background on who I am so that I won't be some mysterious character up here rattling off information, which may or may not be true. I was reared in a military family. My father was a command pilot in the United States Air Force. He is a retired lieutenant colonel. He lives in the state of Texas now. A command pilot means that he literally has flown aircraft for thousands of hours and he's still alive. He started in biplanes and he ended up in jets. When I was a child, I can remember, I think I've scrambled through every airplane that the Air Force and the Army Air Force ever had when I was a child. My dad used to take me out to the flight line to see these planes. I've flown in many of them. I used to eavesdrop on the pilots when they sat around the kitchen table, talked about UFOs and Foo Fighters and dogfights and things that went wrong with their airplanes and everything that you can think of, until they would get sick of me and my brother and sister and send us out in the yard to play. And then we would play what we heard. When I left home, also I was reared all over the world. We lived on Air Force bases in foreign countries. When I left home, I went into the Air Force. I was in the Strategic Air Command. I worked on B-52 bombers, KC-135 refueling aircraft, and Minuteman missiles as an aircraft and missile hydraulic technician. In the Air Force, of course, you have to understand I was a young man at that time. Went in when I was 18. I spent 4 years in. I got out when I was 22. And I met sergeants, people who were over me, but who I became friends with, who sometimes after about 10 or 12 beers would begin to tell me the most incredible stories that I'd ever heard in my life about having participated in teams of Air Force personnel who recovered crashed extraterrestrial spacecraft. Now, you got to understand, if they'd already had 10 or 12 beers, so had I. That's the first thing you've got to know. Second, you have to understand that after 10 or 12 beers at the age of 21, I wasn't interested in extraterrestrial crashed spacecraft. I was interested at the girl, and the girl at the other end of the bar. So I didn't pay too much attention to all of this, and you could never get these guys to talk about it when they were sober. And you still can't today. And in fact, today it's much more difficult because they have means that they have perfected of mind control and memory erasure, to where now some people who work in very top secret projects don't even know what they work on. They know that they go to work in the morning, they get off of work and go home, they don't remember anything that they did all day. The technology for this is well documented. It's in the public domain also, and it's one way that they've figured out how to keep projects secret. If you don't believe that the military can keep things secret, consider this. You just recently heard of the stealth fighter for the first time. This is 1991. I think the first mention of it publicly was in 1990. Did anyone hear of the stealth fighter before 1990? What year did you hear? Early 80s. Early 80s? Would anybody like to venture a guess on when the first flight of